After reviewing the province's current situation and our response options, we've declared a provincial state of emergency to protect the safety, health, and welfare of Albertans.
Alex Dhaliwal reporting to you live from downtown Calgary. Where today at McDougall Centre, Premier Danielle Smith provided Albertans with an update on the state of the ongoing wildfires that has decimated approximately 43,000 hectares across large swaths of the province. Now, as first reported by the counter-signal, Parks Canada had undergone a controlled burn in Banff National Park as part of a equity-driven program where they had 35 applicants across all genders perform a controlled burn as part of a training exercise to mitigate the risk of wildfire in the town of Banff as well as Canmore. But unfortunately, at approximately 4 p.m. on May the 3rd, the controlled blaze got out of control due to several wind gusts, and due to that, other emergency personnel and helicopters were dispatched to the scene as the prescribed burn had gone 3 hectares outside of the prescribed area. Now, we had asked Premier Smith for clarification as to whether this particular activity was appropriate at this particular juncture, given the fact that 13,000 Albertans at least have been forced to flee their homes owing to the mandatory evacuation orders.
There are currently 103 active wildfires in Alberta, burning 121,909 hectares. Since 11 a.m. yesterday, there have been 45 new wildfire starts. There are 14 states of local emergency, and 2 band council resolutions have been declared by local governments and Indigenous leadership. And in total, we have seen 24,511 Albertans evacuated from their homes to ensure their safety.
It is very unusual for us to see this much fire activity this early in the season. Late April, early May are traditionally high-risk times for wildfire because things are very dry. The snow has melted and evaporated, and we haven't quite got full bloom on trees and grasses, which does help slow down fire growth. So it's a high danger time, but I do have to say this year's significantly higher as far as hectares burned than we've seen in the last 5 years. As the Premier mentioned, it's certainly in the double, if not triple digits at this point for hectares burned. And looking back over the last 5 years at this time of year, the highest number of hectares burned at this time didn't go beyond 800 hectares. So now we're well into the thousands, which indicates that this is a much busier than average wildfire season so far.
I made sure that when we were elevating the emergency level, that my chief of staff contacted the leader of the official opposition's chief of staff so that she could receive the same information I was receiving. So we are both well apprised of what is going on. I don't know that we've ever had an election in May, and that's one thing that will obviously have to be considered in future. Prior to the election, I must say, Ms. Notley's been through this before. I've been through this before as well. I did make a request of Elections Alberta to give us some feedback on what they would do in the event that there was an event, whether it was a fire or a flood. And the feedback that I got would be that it would be very unusual to move Election Day. For those communities, if they remain impacted, I think they would be planning for advance polls. And so I think at this stage, it's a bit early to make any additional call, but that was the initial feedback that I got from Elections Alberta, is that they would proceed, make accommodations in the areas that had been affected. But I will certainly reach out to the leader of the official opposition if things escalate or get worse over the coming weeks to see whether she would offer any additional advice on that. But at the moment, I believe that the position of Elections Alberta would be that they would continue.
Alex Dhaliwal, Rebel News. My question is for the Minister and for the Premier.
So Parks Canada had a prescribed burn scheduled for Wednesday between Compound Road, the Trans-Canada Highway, and Banff Avenue. They claimed this exercise would decrease the wildfire risk to the town of Banff and is being used as training ground for fire crews. Does the Alberta government believe this was an appropriate exercise for Park Canada at this juncture, given the unexpected wind gusts caused the fire to escape the predetermined boundary and given the thousands of Albertans under evacuation orders?
I'll ask Christy to respond to that.
Sure.
I can't comment on the appropriateness, but I can tell you about prescribed burns. It is important work for us in the springtime. As you know, this is a highly volatile time for wildfire in the province. Prescribed burns are traditionally held at an earlier time in the spring where we can remove some of those fuels that are built up and could be used to draw wildfire towards town. It's very common practice that we do hazard reduction burns and prescribed burns on a larger scale at this time of year in order to reduce the threat of wildfire to communities.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to say this as well. Our focus right now is in regards to public safety. Our focus right now is about protecting human life, property, and of course, making sure that all Albertans who have been displaced know where to get the proper resources that we have made available to them.
And I'll just add that the federal government is on standby offering help. Mr. Ellis has already spoken with his counterpart, Bill Blair, and we will absolutely use their resources if our officials have asked us to do so. So we want to maintain open lines of communication and make sure that we're getting the resources where they're needed.
While they were not able to provide us with specifics on the matter, we were giving clarification on the importance of prescribed burns, which is a common practice used to train emergency personnel as well as reduce the risk of wildfires in areas where historically wildfires are quite prevalent. Now, if you want to learn more about our election coverage and other key issues, please follow us at rebelnews.com and specifically at albertadecides.com. Again, I'm Alex Dhaliwal with Rebel News reporting to you live from downtown Calgary. Alex Dhaliwal with Rebel News. As we head into the election period here in Alberta, we want you to know, our beloved subscribers, that we will be continuing our election coverage well into the end of May. If you want to learn more about some of the key election issues that our Albertans are facing with, please follow us at albertadecides.com.